Alright, so it was a banner day yesterday at the Redneck Garage. I did work on the Jeep a little bit. We got the front end aligned. That is super cool. Jeep looks awesome. Put the top back on because it's supposed to rain. Got to put the steering wheel on. So there's a little bit of little minor stuff. But for all intents and purposes, that baby is about done. When I'm done, I'm going to do a before and after video, kind of showing what's modified and changed and everything. And that'll be cool. I just got to get the time to do the video work on it. And we'll do a walk around the interior, exterior, but I wanted to finish everything before I do that. But awesome, Jeep is done. Yesterday, my son comes home, my just turned 18-year-old son, and this is his Jeep Cherokee. And he said, "Hey, Dad." I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "My temperature light was coming on and off all the way home." And I'm like, "Did you pull over?" Pause, crickets. "Well, no, I needed to get home." That's one of the worst things you can hear if you're a mechanic or a husband or whatever. I needed to get home. There's a reason why I kept driving the car when it had issues. I remember back in November, December, maybe January, he said, "My heater's not working." And I said, first cause of that, you know, as you do troubleshooting in your head, what causes that? Well, it doesn't have any coolant. So I fill it up and I said, "You really need to watch your coolant, make sure that it doesn't get low. I don't know if you got a leak. Let me know what's going on." Okay. Don't hear anything else. So I thought, well, maybe he just didn't check it in a long time. He's 18 years old. This is his own truck. It's not my truck that he's driving. So it's not really my responsibility. It's been a nice little vehicle. Well, evidently it may have been leaking, just a hairline leak out of the head gasket. And here's what happens, boys and girls, when you don't put coolant in a truck and you've got issues with the head gasket, is eventually it'll blow. Blows the head gasket. I don't know what else is wrong with it, but we're on the first steps of this. Yesterday, as you added antifreeze, it would just bubble out of the top. And he goes, "Well, that's not good." And I'm like, "No, that's a head gasket or a cracked head." So anyway, he's going to have a hard lesson, but hardest lesson is me, because I'm having to fix it because he doesn't have the money to take it to a repair shop, which would charge him who knows what. So this is the next project for the Redneck Garage, is the 2.5 liter Chrysler engine. Same engine as in the Jeep. Just a little history on this motor. It's been a good motor. It was originally an American Motors or AMC engine. The motor this one is in a 1988 Jeep Cherokee, but it was also used in the Wranglers. Mine's a 95 Wrangler. It was in that. It's in the same motor. Different configurations. The motor came out in 1982 and came out in the 1983 model year, and it was used up to about 2002. It was a great little 4-cylinder motor. Then it was replaced with a 2.4 liter Chrysler engine. This is the 88. When it first came out, it was carbureted, and then they went to an electronic carburetor, and this one is a multi-port fuel injection, almost identical to the 95 Jeep that I have. So we got to pull all this crap off, get down to the head, have it remilled, and see where we're at. So this is just the beginning stages of a head gasket replacement on a 2.5 liter Jeep engine, which was originally an AMC. Now, one of the things that was funny about this is the 4.0 liter Jeep engine. If you have that in your Jeep, this is basically a 6-cylinder with 2 cylinders lopped off, and they also reduced the throw on the crank just a hair. But it is really the 258, the 4.0 straight 6 with 2 cylinders removed, and it's been a really good engine for Jeep for all these years. So we'll be going through the procedures or tear down. I don't think I'll get into like all the minute details of like take this off, like how to remove the alternator, because if you can't remove the alternator, then you probably, well, it's not probably, if you can't remove the alternator, you sure as heck can't replace the head. So that's what we're going to be doing next project on the Redneck Garage. If you got a 2.5 that has issues with the head, we're going to be pulling this thing apart. One thing I am going to do is take some of my oil that creeps, really good penetrating oil, and spray on the head where the bolts mount the exhaust and the intake, and see if we can get those loosened up before we try to remove them. Alright, so everything's going relatively well on it. Got most of the wiring off, the intake, the injectors are off, the intake, the air cleaner, all that stuff's off. Now we're down to taking off the power steering pump, getting the belt off, and the bolts on the intake and the exhaust, they look pretty clean, man. I'm hoping that they just zip right off of there, and that'll be nice. There is one bolt on the bottom of your intake, and I think it's a 10 millimeter, that holds on the fuel line. There may be two, I can't remember. I think there is two. But you got to reach underneath there and take those off before you start yanking on the intake, as not to damage your fuel line. This is the fuel line coming up here. So reach underneath there and get those 10 millimeters off, and then once you get to the intake removal, then it comes right off, rather than that line just keeping it from coming off. So we're just moving along. This stuff is not really that hard. You get you either a Jeep manual, or you get you Haynes or Chilton's, and this is all pretty simple stuff, getting these parts off. So we're moving right along with that. Okay, so the intake and exhaust manifolds are both off. I've got them sitting over here on the ground. The exhaust manifold you can basically just push backwards. You don't have to take it all the way off. Should be able to work around it, which is nice because those bolts are a pain. So yeah, I got a little leeway here to pull the head off. Now I got to work on the other side, and we should be able to get this head off. Alright, so I got the head off, and no clear big hole in it, so that's a good sign. Not that bad on the 2.5s. I had to take the alternator off, bracket off. It takes a 12.1/2 socket, and so you got to have one of those to get those bolts off. These bolts here, the 12.1/2 inch or 13 millimeter looked like it would work, but you got to have that to get the head bolts off. So we're running down to take it down to Mark at Napa or machine shop to get the head work. The 2.5 is a pretty straightforward engine, truthfully. After I started taking it apart, it wasn't much different than when I did my injectors, except for having to take off the left side of the engine over here, having to move the compressor out of the way and the alternator and get that bracket off of the head itself. There wasn't a lot of difference to that, and the thermostat housing. So I found it a very easy engine to work on, compared to some of the stuff that I've done in the past, and it'll go back together rather nicely. I'm going to clean off the head material, and I'll clean out that. I've got to drain the antifreeze. I should have done that before. Drain the radiator, and that'll drop that antifreeze out of there, out of the back coolant passages. If you can see it there, you don't want that while you're putting it on. But the head surface is pretty clean for the most part. Not a lot of gunk. It's been taken care of fairly well. So it should go back together just fine. We'll put on a new serpentine belt, a new thermostat, new spark plugs. I don't think there wasn't really any issue with the water pump, so I'm not planning on replacing that right now, unless I change my mind before then. But it seemed to be just fine. The water pump did. So we'll go from there, man. Okay, so that was day one of doing the head gasket installation on the Jeep YJ. I dropped it off at my friend Mark, who runs a machine shop, and he said he's going to try to get it done by tomorrow. Probably be the next day. You never know. And here's what happens when you take your head to the machine shop. They'll take it in there. He'll put it in this big steam cleaner, pressure washer thing, and he'll get it all cleaned off. And then he'll magnaflux it, make sure there's no cracks anywhere in the head, check the valves out. I don't want a valve job. The valves look like they're in pretty good shape. He'll check, make sure they all seat correctly. And then what he'll do is he'll resurface the head of the surface of the head. And what that does is it gives you a flat surface to mount back onto a new head gasket. So that's about it for the day. Just thoughts on taking it off, putting it on. If your engine is not too rusted up or it's pretty clean, then you know what, it's not going to be that difficult. Just do it step by step. Do one thing at a time. I have the factory manual. And I have the factory sheets. If you send me just a message that you want a copy of the PDF of just doing the head gasket, I'll be happy just to send you that. There's also the full service manual is on my YouTube channel. If you go through and look up service manual, the 2.5 is the same in the Wranglers as it is the Cherokees or any of the other AMC engines. It was basically the same. There's a few different things through the years, but basically you're going to run into the same exact portions. One of them has a carb if you've got an early model. This one had fuel injection, so you have to take that off. But for the most part, it's a pretty simple engine to work on. The head is not that big and not super heavy to carry. I mean, it's heavy. One advantage that 2.5 has over some of the newer motors is that it is cast iron. It's a cast iron block and it's a cast iron head. So they're very durable, usually able to be machined and not replaced. So that's a good selling point on the 2.5s if you want a 4-cylinder. Power, not so great. Somebody asked today on YouTube on the channel if why I don't put 33s on it. Well, it's because I have a 4-cylinder. Hello? If I wanted to go to a bigger tire, which I certainly could with the body lift and the fender flares, I could go to a bigger tire, but I would have to change out all my gearing. I'm not a big, huge off-roader. I may go off-road once in a while, but most of it's going to be just trail stuff. I'm not one of these extreme beat the crap out of the truck where I have to fix a bunch of stuff. Some of you guys are into that, and that's awesome. And I was when I was younger, had a bunch of 4-wheel drive stuff. But now I'm an old guy, and I like driving down the square of town and you know, going on picnics and stuff like that with the kids to the ballpark. So that's really kind of what I use my Jeep for. But really, that is the beauty of a Jeep. It's made for adventure, and whatever your adventure is, that's the appeal of having a Jeep, I think, a lot of times. So anyway, that's going to be the end of the video today. If you have any questions or comments, post them below. The 2.5 I think is going to come out just fine. I think he just had a pinhole leak in that head gasket, and we'll put it back together. I'm David from Redneck Garage. Keep turning wrenches.